Hello, I am Ben Salazar. I'm here today. Recording my final for the multicultural education class that I just took at Shawnee State. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about multicultural education that we learned in this classroom and kind of relate it back to myself. You know, what kind of teacher am I? What kind of person was I growing up, and what am I looking forward to do in the future through my career. So we're going to take the regressive, the progressive, the analytical, and the synthesis point of view to talk about just in general, like what did I learn through the multicultural education class. I'm going to start out just talking about myself. And the first part we have to talk about is the regressive. Who am I? Like, where did I come from? I can't talk about where I come from unless I talk about my parents. My parents were immigrants. They came from Mexico. They came here illegally in the 1960s. My mom had a really, really rough life. She was one of the youngest ones of her family. So when they were here, her family was working in the fields. She would have to take care of her siblings. She was their cook. She was the cleaner. She was the mom, while everybody else was out working. At 10 years old, when my mom was finally put into school in Ohio, she had dealt with a lot of problems at school. She did not speak any English at all. There were no programs like there are today to help people who do not speak a different language to adjust to the school systems. So when she went to school, she told me that she would just sit there and teachers really didn't even pay her attention. They would partner her up with somebody and she would just watch. And she was lucky that she found a good friend that helped her learn about what to do at school. But my mom, like I said, 10 years old, started school. She graduated high school when she was 21 years old. She became a legal citizen in the United States when she was 17. So it was, there were times that she told me, like, this class really brought a lot of stuff up conversations between my mom and myself, because I asked her about them actually coming here illegally and talking about the work. And they actually did. Her dad used to come over here through the Bracero program that I never even heard of until this class, where he was one of the workers that got to come to Texas and work. When he was done with his job, he went back to Mexico. It was just a contract thing. They got rid of that contract, which we learned about in this class, and that's why they came over here illegally. He needed to work. There was no jobs, there was no food to feed his family, so they had to come over here illegally. So my mom, she told me times where they went to restaurants, they weren't allowed to eat there because of the color of their skin. School was really rough for her. I mean, she told me that she hated school so bad, and that's who I am. So that's where I come from. My mom, now I'm gonna talk about myself. When I grew up, I was in the same small town as my mom. It's a very small town. My family was the only Mexican family in our school system still, and this was years later. I never really felt like I was different until I got in high school. But when I was a little kid, I always thought I was just normal like everybody else. I did speak Spanish, I did speak English, but I spoke both of them well enough to be successful at school. My race, I'm Mexican. Gender, I'm a male. We grew up poor, but I did not even know that. My parents always took care of us, and I never realized until when I was older that we did not have much growing up, but I guess we didn't need it. Grew up in a Catholic family. Spanish was our language. At home, we speak both Spanish and language still today. Sexual orientation, straight. So that's who I am. That's how I grew up. I grew up in a small town. Mexican man, spoke both English and Spanish. I think that most people would call me, that knew me, as a kind person. I think my family is very kind people. So that's where I came from. That's where I grew up. Progressive. I'm going to move that over to talk about the progressive. Where do I want to go through education? Well, I think the biggest thing with me is I am a teacher. I teach high school Spanish, and my goal is I want to be known as a safe teacher. I want to be trustworthy, to my students. I want to be that teacher that kids can come to and talk to and feel safe. Everybody's different. You know, a lot of kids come in here, kids have problems, you know, whether it be at home, with their friends, with their education, with other teachers. And that's one of my goals is I want kids to be able to come talk to me and know that I'm a safe person, they can trust me, and I will be there and do anything I can to help them. I want kids to look up to me. I think a lot of people want that as being a teacher, you should be a leader. I want kids to look up to me. I want to be that person that they can rely on when things get tough, they need somebody. And, you know, so sometimes the best thing you can do to somebody, just listen to them. What is my career goal for my classroom? I want to be known as that teacher that treats everybody fairly. And it doesn't matter who you are, black, white, brown, what ethnicity, what religion, what sexual orientation you have. To me, that stuff doesn't matter. I mean, maybe it's because I grew up the way I did, knowing that I was in high school, like I was a little bit different. I knew that in high school. But just to be able to be in that position where kids don't have to feel ashamed for what they are, regardless of what they are. So sometimes it could just be social status, like are parents poor? Are they poor? And kids in high school, you know, they're rough on each other. You know, friends are rough on friends. I think that's probably always been a thing. But that's one thing that I don't allow in my classroom. I tell that the first day of school. My classroom is a safe classroom. There will be no bullying. I don't deal with bullying at all, even if you are joking. There's no jokes like that. We're gonna have fun in my classroom and learning Spanish, but you're not gonna do it at the expense of somebody else. You know, that's the one thing that I stress that from day one, and that's always who I've been. I do want to be a role model. I do hope that I am a positive person. I love teaching. I love being around high school kids. It's fun. I did some coaching for a while too, so that's something that I enjoy. I enjoy getting involved with, you know, their lives and making sure that they are happy and safe. Goals for my classroom and career goals. Still talking about the progressive. I think my career goal is to be known as the teacher who was there for their students, even if they did not like my class. I mean, Spanish is not easy. It's not easy for everybody, but like I want them to look back on their high school years and say, hey, Salazar was a good guy. You know, I could talk to him, and he really made my high school experience a good one. That's the kind of teacher I want to be known as for my career goal. You know, I love being around high school students. I want them to be able to be who they are in my classroom to an extent, as long as it's positive, and to make sure that they are safe. I just want to be that person that, like I said, they look back and they can say, hey, I like that guy. He's a good guy. Goals for my classroom, like I said, no drama, no bullying, safe atmosphere for my kids. But I think the number one goal I do have, like talking about classroom goal, is that when kids get out of here, we only have Spanish 1, 2, and 3 here at Marion Local High School. But I want, when kids leave my classroom after taking 3 years of Spanish, I want them to be able to read, write, and speak Spanish enough so that when they go to college, they're gonna be able to pass their entry exam and continue to take in Spanish classes if they choose that route. It took me a couple years to get to that level. I mean, I think with every teacher, it takes a few years to get your niche and figure out what you're doing. But now I have my career path set ahead of me for my students. I think I have a good path for them. I do communicate with other Spanish teachers what's the best thing needed for them. I actually, taking classes that I had to take, I know what they need to know. You know, I was fortunate enough to be able to speak the language already before I started any training. But with students now, kids are smart. It's unbelievable how fast they pick up a language. And it's really cool to see how much from Spanish 1 as freshmen, when they leave my class as juniors, how much Spanish they know. And it's phenomenal how much they grow in my high school classroom. So I want them to be successful when they get out of my classroom, successful enough to go to another country and feel safe, to understand what's going on, to be aware of their surroundings. Are they going to a safe place? Be able to ask questions. Where can I stay? Where is the restroom? Where can I get gas? What are the directions? And know when someone's trying to take advantage of you or not. I mean, that's that's a great emphasis to have, is like just to be able to communicate with other people in another country is it's a blessing, and because you can travel the world. I mean, especially you can go to, you know, southern country. You can go to Mexico, you can go to Spain, and you can be able to do a lot of things like that. And fortunately, I've had students already. I've been teaching Spanish for a few years now, and I have students contact me and saying that they just went to Mexico or they went to Spain, and how it was great that they understood a lot of stuff that was going on there and they could communicate. So that, to me, that's a win for me, because that's what I want. I want kids to be able to learn another language, and that's a great thing. All right, so I've already talked about the progressive part of this multicultural education class. Now I'm going to move over to the analytical. Considering my past and my future, what am I doing to reach my goals? You know, I think one of the biggest things, you know, just that I learned through this class, is just being me. That's the one thing I've learned. Be myself. I am in a great opportunity here for kids to learn about someone different than them. I mean, I'm brown skinned, I'm a Mexican man, and I teach at a school that is 98% white people, white students. There are a couple other now, there's like 2 Mexican families here, but everybody else is completely white. We have no African American students here. Everybody is white, almost everybody's Catholic. But what I can do, and what am I doing to help students see me as a man and not a Mexican? Because a lot of times, like when I first came here, I could hear, it's when Donald Trump first came into office in 2016. I remember kids are rude at some point, you know, they are who they are. But I would hear kids yell, build a wall, and they don't realize, you know, what they're saying and what they're doing, how it could affect people. The biggest thing I can do for my students is to let them see that I'm a human being. I'm a good human being. I'm a kind man. Let them see that what I offer them as just being a person, they're going to be able to change the way they feel about rather races. Because when they think about me, I don't want them to think of me as a Mexican man. I just want them to say Salazar is a good man. I want to try to erase the stereotypes. I'm a hardworking man. There's a lot of stereotypes that we learned about in our multicultural class this quarter. But I am not a lazy man. They know that I'm a hardworking person. I'm kind. I am doing everything I can, just being a positive role model to help them erase the negative stereotypes that there are for Mexican people. A lot of people talk about Mexicans, like when I have some freshmen that ask me some really bizarre questions about just anything. Just like I think they see me as a different entity than them. Like I'm not on the same life form, which is really bizarre. But as they get to know me, they realize, hey, I guess he is just a person. So it's really cool to see the dynamics of that and how it changes from freshman year to sophomore to junior year. Just amazing to see how much these kids grow intellectually, and kids grow up. I mean, that's the one thing too. A lot of times kids come in high school, they're immature, but to be able to see them trust me and know that I am a different race than them, and it's really kind of cool to see that. What's next? The last part is the synthesis. What have I learned about myself through education in this class? I think the biggest thing, like I talked about earlier, I think the biggest thing you got to do is just, be kind. It doesn't matter who you are, just be kind. The one thing I learned from this class is like everybody in here is different. Every single student that comes into this classroom is different. Kids could be going through things at home. Parents could be getting divorced. Their grades are bad. They're not as athletic or as smart as their peers. They are having trouble with boyfriend or girlfriend. They are Catholic. They have sexual orientation differences. Who knows what anybody's going through? But the biggest thing I learned in this classroom is like a lot of times that when you think back about like through history and cultural education, is like you think about the immigrants, which we learned a lot about, which I'm very glad that we did, because it brought a lot of insight to me about like who I am, how my family came here, you know. So all these students that have different, you know, like it could be race, religion, sexual orientation, ethnicity, it doesn't matter. I mean, treat everybody with kindness and be fair to them. If they, you can't tell by somebody's face and how they act on what's going on with them. But when you're kind to people, I mean, I think there are things that really change the perspective that they have, whether it be on yourself or whether it be on themselves. Just to be able to talk about who they are. I just want to be that person that helps them, because every single person is different. You know, I think some of the things that were fascinating to me in this class that we learned about was how through this whole multicultural education course that we read, I actually did enjoy the book. I had some different things, like it's kind of funny to me, but I never knew like there was different words like ebonics. I think that's what that was. So I always understood that African Americans spoke differently, some different parts of the country. I never knew there was a term to it. To me, that's fascinating. I actually talked to my wife about that, and she knew what that term was. And maybe somebody as a Mexican man, I should know that, but I didn't. I did not know what ebonics was, how they speak differently. And teachers like all over. Like I'm blessed where I am. Like I said, I have a pretty. It's all white kids. I have couple Mexican families here, but to be able to communicate, to be able to understand how like other teachers have to deal with like all different races, all kinds of different gender preferences, sexual orientation, ethnicities. It's just amazing. Like there's different things that we learned through this class that just totally makes me feel like this class was very worth it for me, because I learned a lot about myself and my teaching style, you know, and it made me think about like my family, my daughter. My daughter is a student here at this school, and she's a Mexican student, and I hear she gets picked on sometimes, but like it's all in fun. But it's so I mean, when you're the only person in that race who's getting picked on, I mean, and kids don't mean anything by it on that, because they're close friends, but still you think back about that stuff, and this class made me really think about it. It's like, you know, it's like treat everybody kindly. It doesn't matter who they are, what they're going through. I learned a lot of things about the definitions, like the Bracero program. Like I said, my family actually came through and worked. My grandpa came over here legally through the contract to work, and I had no idea about that stuff if it weren't for this class. So I'm very happy that I took this class. I did learn a lot. I think you wrote something, I checked my mail today, something about how you enjoyed the boards for FW, for what it's worth boards. I enjoyed that also. That was probably the best part. And I did enjoyed reading these chapters that we had to read. So thank you very much. You have a wonderful day.